Break it down. Give me 5 people you ready to fight right now.
Timothy Bradley, Paul,
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather, Devin Alexander, and whoever the fan wants.
Yeah. Listen, I told you give them something visual. So you in the head and made your own YouTube-based TV show. It's an array of IPAs and fighters on the road. Got a question? Put them in your comment section right below. Barbershop talk while you're sitting in your living room. Pacquiao, Mayweather, and we can't forget the bruise. Coming to you live with the scoops like a ladle. Allow me to introduce the boxing round table.
YouTube. It's your boy Rollo Jenkins. Just making this quick one, man. We're getting ready to we're getting ready to hit the second half of the boxing year. This first half is finna wrap up soon. The last pay-per-view, I would say, is coming up. Then you got the heavyweight clash with Devern and Arreola coming up in mid-May. The one thing I want to touch on real quick, man, I've had, people always talk about rankings and what do you rate this guy? Is he good enough? Did he get enough good wins and all of this other shit? My first point and or question that I want to raise to everybody is, now we always talk about, people have always told me that Keith Thurman is still an up and coming prospect and, he ain't beat nobody and yada, yada, yada. But something has to be said for when other fighters choose to not fight a particular guy, when they duck. Now, we use the word duck often, but when a particular fighter chooses not to fight another particular fighter with no fight on the horizon, no other fight in negotiation, and no other fight that happened, what do you call that? What else can you call that? And if fighters are allowed to duck and pick and manipulate and maneuver their way throughout the process of contender status to champion status, then how can we call anybody or rank anybody accordingly? Now, I heard Zone's list, and where he ranked Pacquiao number 1 or whatever the case may be, but the thing of it is this. Well, yeah, you can say Pacquiao beat Marquez a couple of times, and he beat Bradley once, some people's mind twice, and he beat Brandon Rios. But now one of those 3 or 4 fighters that I just named, none of them have beaten Marcos Maidana, Jesus Soto Karass, Andre Berto, Mayweather. None of them beat Ortiz, Collazo, Amir Khan. None of those guys beat none of those guys. The only guy who has any wins over anybody on the other side is Tim Bradley over Devin Alexander. And the same thing for the guys over there. One guy did beat Juan Manuel Marquez, but he never fought Pacquiao, Bradley, Rios, none of those guys. So if we have 2 completely separate different pots, how can we even rank these guys in the same manner? How can we rank any of these guys, because none of them are fighting each other? You know what I'm saying? The one dude has kind of crossed over, had a couple of fights, Miguel Cotto. He did fight, you know, the 1 and 2 guy on both sides. He did fight another top 154 pounder on the other side. But I mean, how can you rank these guys when none of them are fighting each other? There is no cross. You don't even have a cross reference. Even if you want to say, well, so and so beat Devin Alexander. You know, Alexander beat Maidana, and Maidana beat Marquez. So he's rated higher than Marquez. Not necessarily saying he would beat Marquez, but you can rate him higher that way. But you don't even have many of those cross references. So how can we even figure out who is better than who at the end of when it's time to decide how do we rank people? Because if you take Marquez, Bradley, and Pacquiao and keep shuffling those three, eventually somebody's going to rise to the top. Just in the same way if you took motherfucking Thurman, Porter, and Maidana and just kept shuffling those three, somebody would rise to the top and have 1 or 2 wins over the other 2. You know, or somebody might have all the wins and everybody else loses to that guy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that Bradley, Marquez, and Pacquiao would beat Porter, Thurman, and Maidana. You might mix those 3 or 6 up all together, and Thurman might beat them all. Or all the top-ranked guys might lose to all the Golden Boy guys. No matter which way you mix them up, even if you shuffle them up a couple of times. So, when we rank these fighters, we might as well rank them accordingly. We'd do an HBO ranking and a Showtime ranking. That's the only way we can really do it. You know what I mean? Because to call one guy rank 1 without ever fighting the 1, 2, 3, and 4 guys according to people's rankings, or to rank a guy 1, 2, 3 without ever fighting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, it's completely ridiculous. Because in all honesty, you got a guy like Tim Bradley, who in his whole career has only really fought one guy who campaigns at 147 pounds. And he's not even in the mix. And that would be Luis Carlos Abregu. Now, the other 2 guys that he beat in the 147 pound division are guys who campaign way lower than 147 pounds. And to be honest, he had 1 win over a guy who campaigns now, who's kind of in the mix, and it's Devin Alexander. But, I mean, he has kind of sort of the right to be ranked around there. Pacquiao he beat Margarito and Cotto, Clottey, and De La Hoya. You know, and those wins should certainly earn him a spot somewhere in the top 10. But let's be real. How long ago was that was a long time ago. And all of the guys who are ranked now, or people ranked now, he hasn't fought any of these guys. You know? At 147 pounds. Miguel Cotto's last fight, I believe, at 147, the 47-pound weight division, was against Pacquiao. You know, when you look at anybody's 147-pound rankings, you don't see anybody around there except for the 3 guys that they've recently fought, being Bradley, Marquez, and Pacquiao. Brandon Rios ain't nowhere in the top 10. Marquez is in the top 10. Somehow, I don't know. The motherfucker only has one single win in the welterweight division. Just one. And 4 losses, you know? So how he gets ranked by some people, I have no idea. So you got a guy like Robert Guerrero. He has no wins against anybody in the top 10. Amir Khan, no wins against anybody in the top 10. You know? So we should, just like the belts do rankings, you know, for their particular sanctioning body, we should rank the fighters according to the promoter and networks that they fight with, because it's only fair to rank them that way, you know? Because I'm sure if you ask Marcos Maidana, you know, why Timothy Bradley is rated over him or Pacquiao, I'm pretty sure that he's confident that he could beat Pacquiao, Bradley, and Marquez. And the fact that he never get a chance to fight 3 of those guys is kind of unfair to him. So the guys that are ranked higher than him on his side of the fence could be twice as good as the 3 guys over there top ranked. Because none of those guys at top rank have beaten none of the guys that are ranked on the Golden Boy side. So we got to remember that, you know? And another thing, this other thing that I want to touch on real quick, man, I've talked about this plenty of times, you know, and I can't reiterate it enough. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts with people, you know, they say that Danny Garcia, he definitely lost to Herrera, you know, and it all came about with the Pacquiao Bradley won. And I was telling folks that, and people call it bad judging, and I used to think the same thing, but this is what you got to realize. Do y'all remember D Styles making a video talking about the beer nerds and shit, right? And he said there is no way that you can tell him that craft beer tastes better than the Coronas or the Tecates or whatever the fuck he drink. And I feel just the opposite, the same way. There ain't nobody on earth who can convince me that a motherfucking Corona tastes better than a Hop Slam. Ain't nobody on the planet gonna be able to tell me shit that's gonna convince me the other way around. And like D-Style said, can't nobody convince him that a Hop Slam tastes better than a Corona with a lime in it. So who's right? Who's wrong? Does Hop Slam really taste better than Corona? It's all in the eye of the beholder. So when D-Styles go to the bar and get what he want, and I go to the bar and get what I want, one of us in the realm of boxing would be wrong for deciding that one was better than the other. So when we're watching a fight, if me and D-Styles sitting on a fucking couch, me and him watching the same exact fight, and fighter A winging a bunch of punches, landing some, missing some, D-Styles might be thinking, man, he fucking him up. I might be thinking, he only landed one shot. It just looked like a bunch of wild shit. Now, we looking at the same thing. It's just what he perceived to be one thing, and it's what I perceive to be something else. Now, we're looking at the same thing. It's just like a fucking... Matter of fact, I had this conversation with Boxologist. Boxologist. He likes the size and body shape of the adult star, the porn star Pinky. To me, Pinky she fat. But we looking at the same girl, obviously. But what he deemed to be a nice, thick old ass. I'm looking at her like, oh yeah, she kind of fat. But it's the same shit. So if me and him had to rate Pinky, write down the score Pinky got if she walked down the street, walked past us, she might get a 5 from me and an 8 from him. It's the same girl though. You can't convince him nothing different. You can't convince me nothing different. It just depends on who you pick. So when you're watching a fight, one guy's throwing punches, you know. Let's say one guy on the ropes doing the shoulder roll, making the guy miss. One guy saying, oh, fuck, that was some good ass defense. I'm going to get that portion of the round to him. The other dude is saying, well, yeah, he might have missed all the punches, but the other dude didn't even throw no punches. So I got to get that portion to the round to the other guy. You know, like, one guy is thinking, throwing punches and missing, to me, is better than not throwing any punches at all. One dude told me that if one dude is dodging punches and the other dude is missing punches, he get that portion of the round to the other guy. So who's right and who's wrong in that situation? Huh? Who is the right person to judge that portion of the round? So all of these fights where people say, you know, Danny Garcia, he got a gift decision against Herrera. Nah, it wasn't a gift decision. The people who were judging it just didn't see it the way you did. Bernard Hopkins and Shimanov. Even though I felt that Bernard Hopkins won the fight pretty handedly, he didn't quite do a whole lot. The margin of victory wasn't that great. I was giving him the rounds, but we know he was basically... See, this is what Bernard Hopkins does. It's almost like he's just trying to play tag. He's running around, and moving. And then he'll jump at you with a right hand and his head down, connect a punch, and either get out of the way or hold. Now, granted, he didn't do a lot of holding in this fight, but he did do a lot of moving. Some guys judging the fight figures that the ring generalship is being dictated by Shimanov because Bernard Hopkins is doing all of the moving. There is no... When it's judging, there is no clear criteria for judging. It's like, you know, people who judge movies or shows or award shows for music or TV shows for beats, you know. Every year there's a award show for Artist of the Year, Producer of the Year, Music Video of the Year. And the only thing that really boils down to is the criteria for the people who voted. You know? Because what you deem to be the best video might not be that to some other people, because they might have other criteria other than what you have. And that's the same thing in boxing. You know? Everybody said that Canelo and Mayweather, a draw was atrocious. I didn't feel that way. You know, I mean, I thought that I scored the fight for him, but it being a draw, I could see how somebody could see that because there wasn't a whole lot of action. Nobody dominated in that, like, nobody beat nobody up in that fight. Nobody had to go to the hospital after that fight, you know? Nobody's face was busted up, wasn't no blood, no cuts. Nobody wasn't wobbled in the fight. None of that shit. And, you know, people want to talk about that one uppercut. Canelo's head snapped back. Well, it looked more dramatic because his head was actually down and he got hair that, you know, the sweat fly off and shit. You know? But he wasn't hurt. He wasn't wobbled or nothing. You know, I mean, he landed a good clean shot. You know, and half the time that's the difference, because some fighters know how to look like they're not getting hit even when they get hit. And some guys look like they're getting hit hard as fuck even when they only getting jabbed. Some people can see the difference in that and some people can't. But, you know, I often see people criticize judging in boxing, you know? And we just got to remember, judging a fight is like judging a beauty contest. If you get 100 random women and 100 random guys and rate them motherfuckers from 100 to 1, it's going to be some girls who ain't going to get the same score by all 100 guys. I mean, I'm saying rate them from 1 to 100. It might be 5 women who might all get number 1. Or it might be 1 girl who get 5 number 1s. You know what I mean? Like, it would never be uniform as long as we're judging, you know? And every sport has its discretionary calls, you know? What's a foul and what's not a foul? You know, we can argue that shit from now until the end of time in basketball. But what we don't argue is whether the ball went in a hoop or not. So whether the foul was called or not, the dude still has to go to the free throw line and make 2 free throws. And we won't debate on whether the free throw was made or missed. That's what we won't debate. You know, that will pretty much be 100%. Whether a punch landed or not, sometimes it's debatable. And if the punch landed, and if it was a clean punch that landed, was it cleaner than the punch that the other guy landed? Or was it more damaging? Did it do more damage? That's always up for debate, you know? So when one person looking at a fight and they saying, oh yeah, he landed 3-4 punches, somebody might be saying, well, those 4 punches wasn't shit. The 1 punch that the other guy landed was way better than the 4 punches that this guy landed. And that happens. It's part of being able to judge a fight. So I just want people to remember that every time they screaming out robbery and shit, this dude got a gift decision, a split decision. Oh, that's some bullshit. I mean, when I heard Bernard Hopkins Shimanov was a split decision, I was a little surprised. But the fact of the matter is, Bernard Hopkins creates the slow down, very little action pace that it's easy to see him not winning a round. So I'm looking forward to Cotto Martinez. I'm really excited about that fight. So far this year, the 2 fights that I'm most interested in that have either happened or coming up, Cotto Martinez 1, Canelo Lara 2. Those 2 fights I am seriously interested in. Can't wait for those fights. And I'll make my prediction on the Cotto Martinez right now. I think Cotto is going to get murdered. It's going to look similar to the Pacquiao fight, but worse. He's fighting a bigger, left-handed guy who, you know, who can punch at 154 pounds. You know, he might not be a huge puncher at 160, but he's not fighting a 160-pound guy. You know, he's, you know, kind of more so fighting a guy his size. So I think he's going to damage Miguel Cotto and possibly retire Miguel Cotto. And I'm alright with Miguel Cotto retiring after this fight if he does, because he's had a hell of a career. A definite Hall of Fame career. And to me, one of the best fighters of this era. You know, one of the only guys to fight on both sides of the Cold War. During the Cold War. You know, it's a lot to be said for a dude to do that shit. You know, because we got all these other motherfuckers who claim that they run their career, or the promoter claimed that the fighter is the real boss and all of this shit. All that old dumb shit that we always hear from these fucking hoe-ass fighters. But Miguel Cotto is the only motherfucker to cross over and fight on both sides during this whole bullshit-ass pissing contest by all these pussy-ass fighters. And there's something to be said for that. He's to be commended for that, because if we really paid attention and gave and acknowledged Cotto for doing that shit, we might get more of these fighters trying to do that shit. But I guess right now, all we get is a bunch of pussy-ass motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying, talking shit. Who they can't fight, who they won't fight, and the promoter this and the promoter that. And, you know, and I guess I should thank Al Heyman for allowing me to make this video and shit, you know what I mean? It's your boy Rollo Jenkins. Holla at your boy.
Listen, I told you give them something visual, so you in the head and made your own YouTube-based TV show. It's an array of IPAs and fighters on the road. Got a question? Put them in your comment section right below. Barbershop talk while you're sitting in your living room. Pacquiao, Mayweather, and we can't forget the brews. Coming to you live with the scoops like a ladle. Allow me to introduce the boxing round table. Yeah.
Rollo Jenkins, boxologist, Zone 6. Dre, BT Pound, 78 Fight News, Blood Boxing, Blood Fists, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, Female Boxing Fan, Carter J, Pull Counter, Joker Boxing, D Styles, the whole YTBC.